Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rantz, Tommy Krysan here on this Wednesday, Hump Day edition of Sports Shorts. Back in the saddle, and right after we get done on Sports Shorts, TK's over at Tremonti's. I'm at one of my favorite spots.
Uh-oh. Hey, I got a question for you.
Great
Can I ask you a
breakfast, by the way.
question? Can I ask you a question?
Yep,
You obviously have your Lake Charles Gumbo Gator gear on. You got the hat and the
I'm
shirt.
in Lake
So,
Charles. I'm in Lake
okay,
Charles.
so do you have like a tally sheet in your closet so that you wear Gumbo Gator and Rougarou stuff the same amount of time? And I know you have a shirt that has both logos that
Right.
Jessica whipped up for you. But
Yeah.
I think you need like a whiteboard in the closet and hit the little tally mark so that we don't overdo the Gumbo Gators or overdo the Rougarou. I mean, we need it pretty close to even, Ron.
Well, it's pretty simple, Tommy. When I'm on the east side of Lafayette, I'm all Baton Rouge Rougarou, and I'm on the west side of Lafayette. I'm all Lake Charles Gumbo Gators, and I have a shirt and a pullover that both have the two logos on them. And occasionally I'll wear both when I'm in a certain market. But yeah, I probably wear a little more Rougarou gear than Gators gear just because I'm over there more. But no, that's kind of how I do it.
Okay, I figured you had some kind of plan, but I don't want somebody to call me one day and say, how come he doesn't wear this anymore?
That's right.
I'm like,
That's right.
Ronnie's got like four closets of shirts and hats. Y'all got to understand that. So anyway, I just thought we'd kind of start today with a little different line there.
All right, TK. So, I know Monday you and Hunter McCann did the show, so we'll catch up a little bit on you and I's chat. But obviously, giant story that developed a few days ago. Sam Levitt, the number one quarterback in the transfer portal. This is a little bit. This has like a Drew Brees feel to it, right? In the sense that this is a giant get for LSU. It was a giant get for the Saints, but there's some strings attached.
Yeah, it really is because there's this foot injury, this Liz Frank, Lisfranc, which required surgery. He will not practice this spring. He's expected to be ready for the fall. This is the injury that basically ended Cam Newton's playing career, and we all know the Cam Newton story. So there is a question mark now. In today's world of medicine, probably better than when Cam Newton had the injury and the rehab and all of that good stuff that goes involved there. But Lane Kiffin targeted it. Ronnie, the crazy thing about this story, he visited Baton Rouge. Then he went to Knoxville to visit the Volunteers, and Kiffin went to Knoxville to meet with him up there. That might be unprecedented, where a coach went into another conference team city, to try to like really make it happen. So this is a lot of layers to this story, and hopefully it works. I mean, as of today, they think he's QB1, and that he'll be ready for the fall camp, and then they'll go from there. I like Landon Clark, the kid from Elon. I've looked into him a little bit since he signed with LSU. I think that's an okay thing, and we'll see. But as we know, in college football, any level of football, I don't care if it's most Blessed Sacrament football, the quarterback is very important.
The quarterback is huge, and obviously with LSU, they have a backup quarterback. I'm sure they're going to sign another quarterback, but the young man from Elon College is the backup. But at the end of the day, they're all in on Sam Levitt, and
Yeah.
they're fully expecting him to be at 100%. It would be equivalent to what happened this year, Tommy, where Garrett Nussmeier got hurt, and then all of a sudden you're playing with the backup, and there's a giant drop off between one and two. I don't have a lot of confidence that lightning will strike twice in the sense that you go find a Division two or one AA quarterback, and then all of a sudden the next year he's a rock star like Chambliss was with Ole Miss. I think that's a super rarity. Kiffin did a great job and got fortunate there, but I don't see that happening back to back. You better not count on that. So that said, a lot of nervousness, a lot of worry, and a lot of wonder, and a lot of fingers crossed between now and August on Sam Levitt. Did I lose you, TK? I don't know if you lost me or if I lost you. All right, well, I'm gonna jump off, I guess, and jump back on. Let's see.
All right, there we go. We apologize, a little bit of hiccup there with the internet.
Yeah, I don't know where I dropped off at, TK, but I was, kind of
The idea
pontificating.
of hitting and lightning twice, where you got
Yeah,
Shambliss who became the rock star, can would land and Clark, that the odds are against that. I'm not saying it won't happen, but
right.
you'd have to if you're going to bet on it, you'd bet that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and so therefore, you look. I mean, you didn't fly across the country and chase after Sam Levitt to not have him be the guy. And like I said, also, this past year when Gary Nussmeier went down, you saw the drop between first and
Yeah.
your starting quarterback, the guy you thought was going to have a great year, Heisman candidate, first round pick, and then he doesn't do that. He gets hurt and the season was over at that point. I mean, once you started going to Van Buren, the drop off was tremendous. But anyway, excited about the fact that they were able to land the number one quarterback in the portal. Obviously, Miami wanted him, Tennessee wanted him. We'll find out one day the True Hollywood story on what the other teams offered, what the whole Lane Kiffin flying to Tennessee was like, what the whole when he came on his visit, he was at LSU when the news broke about the Washington quarterback going in the portal, and supposedly that didn't sit well with Sam Levitt's camp. So one day we'll find out all of the behind the scenes of it because I'm sure it's going to make for a good story. The NFL has had some big news. Pittsburgh is going to be looking for its fourth head coach since 1969.
Ooh.
Mike Tomlin stepped down. They lost their seventh or eighth playoff game in a row. Mike Tomlin stepped down after 19 seasons, uh, and um, you've got two good ones out there. I don't know if anybody's going to necessarily land them in 2026, but Tomlin and Harbaugh, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I mean, that division's going to look quite different, right? Um, but you've got two fantastic Super Bowl winning coaches that are on the street and are both young relative to coaching age. It's going to be an interesting offseason.
Tomlin's 53 years old. Let that sink in for a minute. He's the
Wow.
same age as you. Aren't you
Yeah, I
53?
didn't. Yeah, no, I'm 53. I didn't realize he was 53. I thought he was maybe 54, 55. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's 50. I heard that on the radio this morning
Wow.
driving over here to Tremonti. So
Golly, he was
he's
34 years old when he took that job. That's amazing.
Yeah, and look, class act. You see his statement he released about how thankful he is to been a part of Pittsburgh. All Steelers always be a part of his life. Thank the Rooney family who've owned the Steelers since day one, 100 years ago. And I mean, if he wants to coach again, his talk that Matt Ryan left CBS to go be working the Falcons front office. There's talk CBS, who has the Super Bowl this year, might pick him up, but we don't. We'll see. And then it's kind of like, would he be any good on TV? He's never been that warm and fuzzy guy with the media. He's always been straightforward, honest. I think he's fantastic, but we'll wait and see how that goes. But if he wants to coach again, like Harbaugh, he'll have some hats and shirts like you have to be wearing soon.
Now, Harbaugh is already interviewed with the Falcons. He had a meeting with them. Reports came out of Atlanta. That would be the Saints' luck, right, for Harbaugh to go to Atlanta. They get one of the best coaches in the league. I think if you're somebody like Tomlin, there's a little difference. Tomlin technically resigned, and I do believe that he resigned. It may have been a little bit like the pulmonary resignation type of thing when, there was a little bit of, hey, boy, that neck's hurting, that back's hurting, shouldn't you resign? Shouldn't you retire? There might have been some of that, like, in the Pittsburgh camp, but there'd been a lot of whirlwind around, a lot of, noise about Tomlin either being fired or resigning during the season. And then Pittsburgh, started off good, played bad, then got it together and ended up getting into the playoffs. Um, but I do believe in his case with that family, with that tradition, with that team, with what he means to that organization. And at the end of the day, it really was his call. Harbaugh was a little different. That was a firing type thing. Um, I think there's some value when you're like those two coaches and you've been somewhere so long to maybe take a step back, go make $1 million, $2 million or whatever doing TV for a year, spend some time with the fam, reevaluate your situation, reevaluate all the jobs that are out there, and then make a decision that's not as hasty, I guess, if you will.
I can see that plan. I can agree with that. And again, he's only 53 years old. So, it's not like he's 63 and would somebody hire him if he's 64 or 65. So I think he's going to land on his feet. I think Mike Tomlin will do what Mike Tomlin wants to do. And if that's take a year off, sit at the TV desk, sit in the TV booth, or go coach one of the other job openings, he'll do that. And it'll be a story because, the long time that he spent in the NFL. Never had a losing season. Let that sink in. Every franchise has losing seasons, not the Steelers with Mike Tomlin.
The other thing too is that if you're either one of those, Hall of Fame coaches, Harbaugh or Tomlin, you have an opportunity to be super choosy, super selective, find the organization and the ownership group you want to work for, find the situation where they have either a franchise quarterback or opportunity to draft a franchise quarterback, because like let's look at it like this, like Miami is a job that you would think, okay, that's a good, good city, good weather, good organization. It's a nice place I wouldn't mind living, all that kind of stuff. Who's going to be the quarterback in Miami, right? I think we
Well,
all agree that Tua is not the future of the Miami Dolphins. So they have to start from scratch. And so that would give you pause, whereas if you're Atlanta and you've got Penix and I think Cousins under contract in another
yeah,
year or so,
Cousins is under contract.
you got two guys that you probably feel a lot better. Hey, I got an option to. I can coach these guys up. I can work with Kirk Cousins. He's a great guy, whether he starts or not. He's going to be a team player. I got this young quarterback in Penix who's had a lot of opportunity over the first 2 years. I can build something there, maybe a little faster than I can in Miami, where I don't even know who my quarterback's going to be.
Let me put it to you this way. First off, if you take the Dolphins job, you get to eat at Garcia's Seafood. So I mean, that's a
That's right.
that's a
That's right.
plus. But I heard this in the last day or so, Ronnie. When you talk Harbaugh and Tomlin, it's kind of like the teams aren't interviewing him; they're interviewing the team.
Right.
Okay, like you just made the illusion of who's the quarterback, what's the short term, what's the long term. You just referenced it perfectly to the analogy I heard that they're going to go find the spot where they think's best because when they walk in the door, they're going to command respect. They don't have to prove anything. The proof's in the pudding already. So it's going to be fun to watch how it unfolds.
Yeah, no question. And I'm kind of excited to see what happens. I'm telling you, I've been saying it all fall. There is a shift in the NFL. You got the old guard kind of fading out relative to the old guard quarterbacks. You got this new breed of quarterbacks coming in. Obviously, you have a mega shift with two Hall of Fame coaches that are so iconic with their organizations, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and now they're going to be elsewhere, whether they're coach at all or they'll be on a different sideline. It is going to be the 2026 season is going to look, 27 season rather, it's going to look very different than what August was of 26. Going into this year, the thoughts, the expectations, what we thought was going to happen, how it was going to play out, all of that looks very different in January of 26 and is going to look even more different in September of 27. All right, well, what else we got, TK? Congratulations, by the way, on your Pelicans. The Ronnie Rantz TK bet against the Pelicans 42 games into the season is finally paying dividends. The Pelicans are 20 and 22 against the spread, which means that Tommy's a winner because he's going the opposite way. Uh, and you're 9-2 in your last 11. If you just simply bet against the Pelicans, whatever the line is, whatever the point spread is, go the other way. You're 9-2 in your last 11.
Yeah, been on a hot streak. But basketball's a game of runs. This our Pelican plan's a game of runs because we started off we were like 5-1, and then all of a sudden we were 7-11. I mean, it has bounced around like most
Right.
basketball games do, but it's been on a good run right now, and let's hope we can keep up. They host the Brooklyn Nets tonight, and Brooklyn laying 2.5. I'm already on that.
What else we got, TK?
Well, the big story, and we can get to it as we go forward and maybe spend some radio time on it. Brooks Koepka has
Hmm.
left the Live Tour, okay, and they created a path for him after numerous meetings to come back to the PGA Tour. It could cost him roughly $50 million on paper. In other words, he won't be eligible for some pool sharing in the players' bonus pool and all that. He's not going to be able to do that for like 5 years, like which could add up to like $50 million that he wouldn't get. Not that he's worried about how to buy a hamburger at Tremonti's, but it's what he's doing. But and they thought this might be the end of Live, and others like John Rahm and those guys, Cam Smith would come back, but they've all come out and said they're sticking with Live, and there is a Live tournament in New Orleans next summer at City Park in New Orleans, and which I think is nuts, but that's what's supposed to happen. That's what's planned to happen. So that Koepka story is pretty big, especially because he hasn't played great golf lately compared to when he had his run when he was winning majors. But that's an interesting story. And again, Ronnie, this college football, the NFL, it's all about the money. Money. That's what it's about.
So, speaking of City Park down in New Orleans, I played that golf course a couple of weeks ago, and I can't imagine that they're going to have a professional golf tournament there. I mean, the course and the actual physical structure of that area is not conducive to a mega event. I will say this, they are, they're not adding any bunkers or anything, but they are making the fairways more narrow. They actually had some you could see the way they started to cut the grass, and they had some markers to where they're trying to make it more difficult because the course is way too easy for professional golfers.
And here's the problem with City Park, and I haven't played there in forever. For lack of a better word, it's flat. Most golf courses have the mounds for viewing for the fans. You got to be fan friendly, with the mounding where. But if it's flat, it's very tough to see. It's tough to see even with mounds. Whether that's you name any course where the tour plays. I mean, it's built for customer viewing. Not to mention the grandstands in Phoenix at the waste management thing. So that would be an issue for me. Plus, parking, I think, would be an issue. But they'll shuttle people in from somewhere. They'll park
Yeah,
at
the thing
UNO
about City
or they.
Park is, yeah, you can park kind of, that's the nice benefit about being City Park is you might have to have a little walk, but there's plenty of parking. They can create plenty of parking. You're just going to have a little bit of a hike. Um, I don't think they have to worry about fans, Tommy. It's not going to be
No,
well attended. None
there'll
of
be
these
more
live
people.
events are well attended, by the way. You know,
Way more people at an LSU baseball game than will be at the Live Golf Tournament. Way more.
I definitely
Not even
believe that.
close.
Yeah, I
Not even
definitely believe
close.
that. Yeah, they're fixing up the old driving range. The little double decker driving range. They're doing some things over there to kind of make that area a little nicer because obviously the pros are going to need to be able to use it. But yeah, this is just a bad deal. But Bruce Koepka not being on the Live Tour is gonna affect fans and being even less people there in June. And oh, by the way, the last weekend in June, same weekend as the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend, I believe, is
Well,
the Live.
there'll be more people in Natchitoches for the Hall of Fame thing than at the Live Tour event.
Yeah.
I'll bet on that as well. But I don't know. Not every idea is a good one. Not every idea is a bad one. I think this is a bad one.
Yeah, I hope this is a one and done situation for the state of Louisiana because the state of Louisiana is paying Live $6 million. By the way, they don't give that money to the PGA for the Zurich, so the PGA and Zurich are pissed. And but hopefully Live just goes away. It doesn't seem like Live. I would have thought by now Live would have put damaged. The PGA a little bit or challenged them or had more traction or whatever. That's not the case, and instead it's going the other way. So I would think that the Live League might be in its last year. I would really at this point be surprised if Live Golf was still around in 2027.
I
Um,
agree. One last thing, Ronnie, while you were away from the microphone the other day, Alex Bregman signs with the
Cubs,
Cubbies.
baby. Yeah.
35 million a year, 5 year deal, no opt out clauses like he had in Boston. Alex Bregman to the Cubs to play a little third base, and he's got a pull swing. Everybody knows that. Questions about the wind at Wrigley and will his swing work? It worked in Houston with that Crawford box. It worked in Fenway with the wall and left. Will it work in Wrigley? Well, he's gonna get 35 million a year to find out.
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously Hunter McCann, who does the radio with
Oh,
us, is a big Cubs fan, and he's pumped. He'll be getting that double X Bregman shirt. But if I'm not really these days a big fan of one particular team in major leagues, my attention's more college focused and LSU and other UL and other schools. But if I were to, have to pick a team, it would be the Cubs because that was my team in my childhood, and that was my team when I of my teens and early 20s, and I followed the Cubs in the 80s and 90s a good bit. So I'm happy for the Cubs. I'm happy for Bregman. Um, Tommy, I've never been to a game in Wrigley Field.
let's do it, me and you.
I,
Let's
I've
go
been to
make a
I've been
trip
to
and
Yankee
play
Stadium,
golf.
been to Fenway, been to Houston, been to Milwaukee, been to Miami, been to I've never been to Wrigley, and I plan on definitely, you know, I don't know, this year, next year, while Bregman's playing for sure, we need to go.
Let's go. We can put some golf in the idea. We can do all that. We got to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, one of my favorite players traded yesterday. Nolan Arenado goes to the Diamondbacks yesterday. One of the best third basemen, not as good as Mike Schmidt, but one of the best third basemen defensively to ever play the game. Is now going to be with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They talked about moving him out of St. Louis for years. It happened yesterday.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk before the Cubs signed Bregman that maybe he'd be traded or so to the Cubs, and which for St. Louis fans that would have been terrible. But instead, it's Arizona. All right, TK, tell us about Tremonti's, and we'll be back on Friday.
Yeah, we will be back on Friday. Now, don't forget Tremonti's. Today is Wednesday, so $6.99 for burger and fries. You can dine in, you can get it to go. That's every Wednesday, not just today. $6.99 for the world famous Tremonti's hamburger, which they sell at Baton Rouge Rougarou games. They're very popular. I have people who have started eating the Tremonti hamburgers, good friends of mine, who will not eat hamburgers from anywhere else. Think about that. Let that sink in. They won't order a hamburger anywhere else and they buy them. You can buy a box of a dozen of them, take them home, thaw them out as you need them, Tremonti's, and you can eat. Come try it for $6.99, burger and fries, and that's every Wednesday. Don't forget to like and share this show, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or X. We're on all three of those platforms. We'll throw some clips out for the rest of the day. Appreciate you liking and sharing this show. We're back Friday with another episode of Sports Shows Daily. On behalf of Ronnie Rantz and Mike Tremonti here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, I'm Tommy Krysan. Have a great day, everyone.